Hi, this is video 7 titled Hagar's Fear. We're going to summarize the story about Hagar that takes place in Genesis chapter 16. In this story, Sarah and Abraham had been together for a very long time and had been unable to conceive and bear children. So Sarah, whose name was at the time Sarai, she came up with a plan that she would have Abraham, whose name at that time was Abram, to impregnate her maid or her servant Hagar. They went through with this plan and Hagar did become pregnant. But when Hagar became pregnant, Sarai says that Hagar was, acting differently. She was treating her differently, or disrespecting or undermining her, right? So her maid was undermining her because she was able to become pregnant by Abram, but Sarai was not. And so Sarai goes to Abram and she tells Abram, look, my maid is acting funny. Abram basically tells her, that's your problem. She is your maid. Deal with it. Do what you see is right. And so Sarai goes on to begin mistreating, afflicting, the Bible says, Hagar. So she afflicts Hagar. Hagar perceives Sarah's affliction of her. And in response, she runs. So in fear, she runs. And in this, Sarai demonstrates irrational fear. And potentially it could have been rational fear as well. Maybe the Bible just doesn't tell us what was going through her mind at that time, but it doesn't mean that she did not think through what she was doing. So this is rational or irrational fear that Hagar demonstrates here. So the next thing that happens is that Hagar runs, and she is at a certain fountain when Yahuwah sends a messenger, whom we call an angel in English. But Yahuwah sends a messenger to her, and the messenger goes to Hagar and tells Hagar her future and the future of her unborn son Ishmael. And the angel tells Hagar that Ishmael is going to be the father of many nations, and that she would be the mother, her grandmother of many nations. But his descendants would be constantly at war with their brothers. They would always have problems and be in a constant fight with the other children of Abraham, perhaps. And so the messenger gives Hagar this visual of the future, what is to come, and it's really not all that pretty. But interestingly, Hagar's response is a righteous response, and it demonstrates for us what fear really is. And so in this story, the angel calls Hagar the Bible says, he meets with her and he tells her the future. So he basically gives Hagar a new perception, a new way of viewing things. Alright, and so this we define as rational So rational fear is the presence of perception, a meeting or a calling, a new way to see things, a new view, and then a response or a reaction that occurs is fear. Alright. And so Hagar has this experience, and what she does is, again, calls on the name of Yahuwah. In Genesis 16:13, it literally translates, and she, referring to Hagar, called the name of Yahuwah that spoke to her mark, which is like he was telling her destiny, what her fate was. And she said, God sees me because the sayings that have happened here today, I did see behind me my perception. So she says, because of everything that has happened here, because of everything that was said to me, now I can see the error of my ways, the error of my thinking or my perception, how I saw things before was incorrect. And so what she does is, we know that she saw it as incorrect because what she does is she reverses it. She acts in fear of God. So now having knowledge of God's purpose for her and for her son, she acts in fear of God. So the fear of God is collectively our ability to perceive, to reevaluate in this calling, in this meeting, reevaluate, taking in new information so that we can perhaps change our perception to align with that of something or someone else. In this case, Hagar realigns her perception with God's perception. Yahuwah says, this is what's going to happen. This is what I have planned for you. And what's interesting is that he tells her, return to your affliction. Let Sarah continue to torture you because I have plans. And my plans requires that you be tortured by Sarai. Okay? And so he says, let her torture you. And this becomes the fear of God. So the fear of God is to act not in one's own self-preservation, but to act according to what Yahuwah deems true and necessary. According to what Yahuwah deems true and necessary. And so Hagar goes back to her affliction. Sarai continues to afflict her, but she remains there for as long as she needs to, so that Yah's purpose can be fulfilled in her and her son.